What's up, guys? Kellen Morgan back here with Inside Out Precision, and as promised, today I am reviewing the Prime Black 3. So last week we did the Black 5. If you missed that review, I highly suggest you go check it out. That bow was really impressive. Finally got a lefty in the 3. I actually just came in today, so just in time for the review, and really excited about this bow. You know, my traverse is 33 inches, and I think it's a great blend of axle to axle length, and you know, holds like a target bow basically. So it's short enough to be a compact hunting bow, but I get a lot of the benefits of a longer axle to axle bow. So let's jump right into the technical specs first. So the Black 3 is 33 inches axle to axle. This has a 6.5 inch brace height compared to the 5, which had a 6 inch brace height. IBO is at 337 compared to 343 on the Black 5. It weighs 4.3 pounds. So a lot of people say, oh man, this bow feels really heavy, and I think it's just because they see these big cams and the brain just assumes that it's heavy, but it's only 4.3 pounds. The Black 5 was 4.4 pounds, so they're actually lighter than a lot of the other aluminum bows on the market, and they're extremely well balanced. So the draw length on this, just like the other Black series, at least on the Black 1, 3, and 5, they all go from 25.5 to 31 inches. And then at each draw length, I can adjust the let off by moving the draw stop here just a little bit one way or the other, between 65 and 90%. So those of you guys who like a real low let off, you know, like a more target bow feel, you can get a lower let off. For a hunting setup, crank that thing up to 90 if you have to be at full draw for a while. So a real broad array there of let off options on this. In the longest position, I will say, when it's maxed at 31, that draw stop is going to be pegged all the way in the one position, and the max let off you're going to get is about 70%. So that's something to consider. But it feels really good. It's got a really smooth draw cycle. Like I said, I try to keep personal opinion out of these reviews, but because these are newer bows, I've kind of been putting them through the cycle, and I really like the draw cycle on this. It's got a rock solid back wall. The cams are easy to time between the draw stop and, you know, just little adjustments in the yoke or in the cable here. They're really easy to time. You know, the technology on these bows, if you didn't see the Black 5 review, everything on this bow is about being balanced and minimizing knock travel. You may notice that the grip, or where the knock point is actually above the true center of the string, but the grip where your hand comes into the throat of the grip there is actually perfectly in the center of that riser. So there's more riser below your hand that gives the bow a lower center of gravity, makes this thing aim like an absolute rock. One thing I noticed, you know, compared to like my Mathews when I shoot this bow, is that the top of the bow does not want to kick back on me, even without a stabilizer. It's a very level bow throughout the shot. You know, I've always said if my string is moving forward, my arrow is moving forward, and my arm is moving forward, I don't want my bow coming back towards me. I want everything to stay level, if not move, you know, towards the target slightly. So getting into kind of the riser and the cam system here. These cams look pretty symmetrical, but in fact the top is a little bit larger than the bottom. Again, this goes back to at full draw, they were able to achieve the least amount of knock travel by having a slightly larger top cam and a slightly smaller bottom cam. You may notice the riser kind of curves here, and it's actually torsioned a little bit too. And that's because every bow, when you draw the bow, the riser flexes. Sure, it's minimal, but there is flex in the riser. And when you have uneven flex between the top and the bottom of your riser, what happens is, even though you know, when you time it on the drawboard and your cams come around and touch at the same time, because that riser is flexing, one is actually ahead of the other on the shot, meaning when I shoot, one will reach rest before the other. So what they've done here with this shape is, A, it allows them to get more material below the grip while maintaining a short, you know, without lengthening the bow a lot. You know, if this was straight, this would be a 36 axle to axle bow, but by curving it, it adds rigidity, and it equals out the flex from top to bottom of the riser. I'm sure everybody who's tried tuning a bow has had bows where you time it perfectly. You know, everything is level, should be perfect. You run it and it's knock high or knock low. And you kind of have to tweak some things here or there to account for that knock travel. And a lot of that comes from uneven flexion in the riser. It's a mouthful. So personally, I love the grip on this bow. It's very ergonomic, very comfortable, great angle. I think they really nailed it with that. If I had one critique about it, it would be that, you know, there's no texture here, or you know, you might end up wrapping it with like hockey tape or a really thin tennis handle wrap, just so that, you know, if your hands are sweaty or it's raining outside when you're hunting, your hand's not going to slip. That being said, it shoves your hand right up into the throat of that grip in the same place every time, and I really don't think slippage is going to be a big deal. I haven't had a chance to get this out in the rain hunting with it, obviously, so I don't know, but that, just looking at it and my past experience, that seems to be the case here. So, you know, the parallel cam system here, what that's designed to do is minimize torque at full draw. So rather than just having the one cam, really easy to torque it back and forth, having these two tracks like that, the same amount of torque in my hand will torque the riser less. It makes it harder to torque that bow, which again, I think goes back to giving this such a rock solid feel at full draw. So I'm pretty excited to shoot this one. I did notice when I was shooting it that there was a little more vibration actually than the 5 had, which kind of surprised me, because generally when you get a little longer brace height, that it decreases vibration a little bit. But it's not a thump, it's not shock, it's a very minimum like twang almost. And to be honest, once I kind of messed around with the timing a little bit, you know, one cam was about a 16th open, and when I evened it out, it actually deadened that a lot. And I think that's a problem with any bow. You know, when I'm on demo bows, when you change the draw length a bunch, very rarely does that timing stay perfect. And so when guys go and shoot a bow in a shop, most places aren't going to take the time to, you know, retime the cams for every customer that comes through. So if one cam is hitting and then the other cam is hitting, when you shoot, it's going to basically double that vibration. It creates a longer window for that vibration to take place, so you feel it longer. Once I got it timed and I got a monkey tail on the cables here, it really deadened it down a lot. Another thing is, you know, when people back off the limbs, this string comes off the stop quite a ways, and you'll feel a little more residual vibration. So I think a lot of times the hand shock you feel in a bow may just be due to the way that the cams are timed or how far the string is off the string stop. It doesn't have a lot of vibration though. It's a smooth shooting bow. Really, really impressed with it so far. I'm really, really tempted to set one of these up and run one for the season and just see how it goes. So, as usual, I'm gonna do a chronograph test both at 30 inches and 28 inches. Today I have a 532 grain arrow, a 502 grain arrow, a 475 grain arrow, a 450 grain arrow, a 420 grain arrow, and a 380 grain arrow. So full array of weights there. We're gonna do it both at 30 inches, 70 pounds, and 28 inches at 70 pounds. The 5 was incredibly efficient with heavy arrows, to the point where I actually turned the camera off and tested it again to make sure that it wasn't just a malfunction on the chronograph. So I'm curious to see if with a little higher brace height and shorter axis of the axle, we maintain that same efficiency. So I'm gonna go get the chronograph set up and we'll start running some arrows through this baby. All right guys, so got the chronograph set up here. Again, this is right at 70 pounds. I had to take about a half a turn out of the limbs to get it there. So they actually come, like most bows, you know, 71, 71 and a half, something like that. But this is right at 70.2 pounds. 30 inches, this first arrow was 532 grains. Smooth. .271, so a little bit slower than the Black 5, but this IBO's, you know, 6 feet a second slower anyway, so that's pretty much right on par with what it's rated at. This next arrow is 502 grains. .277, so just like the 5, it seems to be really efficient with a heavy arrow. You know, there's not a big drop between a 500 grain and a 532 grain arrow. This next arrow is 475. 284. So 475 grain arrow going 284, you know, pretty on par with a lot of bows that are rated at this speed. Where's my next arrow? Next arrow, this is a 400, right at 449 grains, so 450 basically. That grip is so nice. $291, so that's screaming. This is a 421 grain or 420 grain arrow. Wonder if this will get above 3. $305. So that's like a really pretty common weight if you're shooting. That's an Axis 340. So with just a 100 grain head, so pretty common. This is an Axis 400, but it's only coming in at 380 grains. $315 on the dot. So, you know, you get 380 grain arrow going 315, 400, just under, you know, like 290 something, or 305 or whatever that was. So it's fast. You know, all those speeds seem to be really consistent with what it's rated at. You know, IBO rating is done with nothing on the string. This has a loop and peep on the string, so that's going to slow it down. And then it's with the 350 grain arrow, which it's hard to even build an arrow that's 350 grains that's going to be long enough to actually fit this bow. So I'm going to go set this at 28 inches, and we're going to shoot those same arrows. Be right back. All right, so changed up the draw length to 28, still the same draw weight, 70.2. First arrow is going to be 532 grains. $259, so almost basically right at 260. That's a way heavier arrow than most people at 28 inches are going to shoot. This is a 502 grain arrow. $267. This is a 475 grain, so this would be a pretty common. This is like an axe or an FMJ 340. There's gonna be a lot of guys shooting that spine, you know, for elk hunting, especially. So this is gonna be a pretty common weight at a draw length like this, at least out west. $274. Let's go. Where is it? There it is. This is 448, or basically 450. $278. So not a big jump there. This is a 420 grain arrow. $287, and then last but not least, $380. $305, so big jump there. So kind of final thoughts on this. In terms of the draw cycle, it doesn't draw quite as smooth as the 5, and I shouldn't say not as smooth, you feel the weight a little more, if that makes sense. And I think that's just more due to shorter axle to axle bows. It seems like the shorter you get, the little harsher the draw gets. I think it has to do with the angle that you're pulling that cam over. You know, longer bows it's kind of rolling it over itself. Shorter bows it's gonna kind of pull it more horizontally over itself. but it has a really nice draw force curve to it. It doesn't just stack and then dump in the end. You know, it comes back pretty smooth throughout the whole thing. You know, for me, it'd really be a toss-up between the 5 and 3. I think for hunting, I'd probably end up going with the 3. You know, sacrifice a little bit of speed, but I get a little more compact platform, still aims incredibly well. And yeah, I'm impressed with this bow. You know, there's pretty much all the brands we carry, you know, we shoot them before we decide to carry them. So, you know, you probably haven't heard me say there's a bow in here that I don't like a lot. But, you know, this one definitely stands out to me this year. There's been a few bows that have really stood out that I think made a big change from the year before. This, the Prime series, this is the Black series, big jump from the CT series last year and the Logics. The PSEs, if you haven't seen those reviews, those have really stood out to me as well. I think they made probably the best changes this year, Prime and PSE did. Hoyt's kind of just stayed status quo. Matthews kind of just stayed, you know, stayed the same in terms of like speed and smooth and all that. But these bows seem to really took a big leap from last year's models. So comment or question below, get out to one of your Prime dealers and shoot these. They are sweet, you will not regret it. We just started getting these bows in like a week and a half ago, and we've already sold like 10 or 12 of them. So people are liking them a lot. And you know, that's going up against all the big brands like Hoyt, Matthews, PSE, all that. So go out and shoot one of these. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to comment below. We try to get back to you guys all in a timely manner. We're getting a lot more comments and questions, so it's kind of becoming like my Sunday job to just answer questions. So be patient if I don't get to you right away. You know, I have seen it, and I'll do my best to get back to you. So thanks for watching, guys. As usual, keep it in the middle. Remember, precision is a decision, and I'll see you on the range.